Daniel Carter first understood something was wrong on a quiet Thursday evening, when silence filled his home more loudly than any argument ever could. The rain fell steadily outside their suburban house near Seattle, tapping against the windows like a slow clock counting down something he could not yet name. Dinner sat warm on the table, carefully prepared the way Emily liked it, but she barely noticed. She sat across from him, scrolling through her phone, her face glowing from the screen instead of from conversation. Months ago, she would have told him about her day before he even asked. Now, every answer felt short, careful, and distant. He tried to keep his voice normal. "How was work?" "Busy," she replied without looking up. That word had become a wall between them. Busy meant no conversation. Busy meant no laughter. Busy meant another evening passing quietly. Daniel told himself not to overthink. Marriage changed over time. Everyone said that. Couples grew comfortable, routines replaced excitement, and life became practical instead of romantic. Still, something deeper felt wrong. Not loud enough to accuse, but strong enough to worry him. After dinner, Emily went upstairs early, saying she was tired. Daniel cleaned the kitchen alone, moving slowly. Remembering how they used to dance while washing dishes, joking about who cooked better meals. Those memories felt recent, yet strangely far away, like scenes from someone else's life. He sat on the couch afterward, scrolling through old photos on his phone. There was Emily laughing at Niagara Falls during their honeymoon trip to Canada, her hair blowing wildly in the wind while she held onto his arm. Another photo showed them painting this very living room, covered in paint spots and smiling without care. He stared at those images longer than he meant to, wondering when happiness had stopped feeling natural. The changes had started small. Emily began working later hours. She kept her phone closer than before. Conversations turned practical bills, schedules, groceries, never feelings. Daniel responded by trying harder. He brought flowers home one Friday. She thanked him politely but placed them in water without the excitement he expected. Another weekend, he suggested a road trip, but she said she already had plans to rest. He never accused her. Daniel believed problems should be solved with patience, not suspicion. Still, uneasiness followed him everywhere. One evening while folding laundry, he found a folded restaurant receipt inside Emily's jacket pocket. He almost ignored it, but curiosity stopped him. 2 dinners, 2 drinks. A downtown restaurant they had never visited together. He stared at the paper for a long moment. His chest tightened, but he carefully placed it back exactly where he found it. He didn't want confrontation without certainty. More than anything, he wanted to believe there was a simple explanation. That night, he barely slept. Emily lay beside him, turned away, her breathing steady. The physical distance between them felt larger than the space on the bed. Daniel wanted to reach out, to hold her hand like he used to, but hesitation stopped him. For the first time in their marriage, he felt unsure if comfort would be welcome. Days passed, each one heavier than the last. Emily laughed occasionally at messages on her phone, but rarely at his jokes anymore. She left early for work and returned late, often saying she needed time alone to relax. Daniel respected her space, even as loneliness quietly settled into his routine. Then Emily's mother, Margaret, arrived for what was supposed to be a short visit. Margaret Bennett was calm in a way that made people feel safe instantly. A retired school counselor from Vancouver, she noticed details others missed. Within hours of arriving, she sensed tension in the house. She watched Emily speak quickly before retreating to her room. She noticed Daniel forcing cheerful conversation during dinner. The next afternoon, Emily stepped outside to take a phone call. Her voice soft and cheerful in a way Daniel hadn't heard directed toward him in months. Margaret poured tea and sat across from Daniel at the kitchen table. "You look tired," she said gently. He smiled politely. "Just work stress." She studied him quietly, not pushing, simply waiting. Her patience made honesty easier than pretending. After a moment, Daniel sighed. "Things have been different lately." Margaret nodded, as if confirming something she already knew. "Marriage goes through seasons," she said softly. "But silence usually means someone is hurting." Daniel hesitated. unsure how much to say. He respected Emily too much to complain about her to her own mother. Yet the weight inside him felt too heavy to carry alone. "I feel like I'm losing her," he admitted finally, "and I don't know how to fix it." Margaret didn't react with shock. She simply listened. "Emily has always struggled when she feels unsure about herself," she said carefully. "When people feel lost, they sometimes look for answers in the wrong places." Her words stayed gentle, never blaming, never defending unfairly. Daniel felt relief just being understood. That evening, while taking out the trash, Daniel heard Emily laughing in the backyard during another phone call. The sound stopped him. It wasn't just laughter. It was warmth, energy, life. A version of Emily he missed deeply. He returned inside quietly, heart heavy with realization he could no longer ignore. Later that night, he asked her to sit with him. Emily looked nervous before he even spoke. "We need to talk," he said calmly. She sat down slowly, eyes filled with uncertainty. Daniel chose honesty over accusation. "Are you unhappy with me?" Her eyes watered instantly. Silence stretched between them before she whispered, "I didn't mean for things to happen this way." The words confirmed what he feared. She explained slowly, struggling to find the right sentences. She had grown confused about her life, overwhelmed at work, unsure about her future. She met someone who listened when she felt invisible. She insisted nothing had been planned, but emotions had grown before she realized the consequences. Daniel listened quietly, each word painful but necessary. "Do you love him?" he asked gently. Emily wiped her tears. "I don't know what I feel anymore." That uncertainty hurt more than betrayal itself. It meant their marriage was no longer certain ground. She asked for space, time to think and understand her feelings. Daniel agreed because forcing someone to stay never created love. The following days felt unreal. They spoke politely but carefully, like strangers sharing a home. Margaret stayed longer than planned, sensing both of them needed stability. Instead of judging her daughter, she focused on supporting Daniel's emotional strength. She encouraged him to talk, to rest, to remember that another person's confusion did not define his worth. One morning, Daniel finally asked her, "Why are you helping me so much?" Margaret smiled kindly. "Because kindness should not depend on sides. You are family too." Her words stayed with him. For the first time since the truth came out, Daniel felt less alone. Margaret didn't promise everything would be fixed. She didn't offer unrealistic hope. She simply reminded him that dignity mattered, even during heartbreak. A week later, Emily packed a small suitcase. The sound of the zipper closing felt final, even though she promised it was temporary. "I just need time," she said quietly near the front door. Daniel nodded, unable to trust his voice. He wanted to beg her to stay, but love, he realized, sometimes meant allowing distance instead of demanding closeness. She left with a soft goodbye, the door closing gently behind her. The house became painfully quiet. Daniel stood in the hallway long after she was gone, listening to nothing. Every room felt larger. Every memory felt louder. He walked into the kitchen where Margaret sat quietly, giving him space, yet remaining present. Neither spoke for several minutes. Finally, she said softly, "The hardest moments often come before clarity." Daniel sat down, exhausted, unsure what the future held, whether his marriage was ending or simply changing forever. But as morning light slowly filled the room, he realized one thing. Even in heartbreak, he was not completely alone. And he had no idea yet that this unexpected support, this quiet strength beside him, would become the reason. He learned how to stand again when everything he loved felt like it was slipping away. Daniel Carter woke before sunrise on the first morning after Emily left, confused for a moment by the silence around him. He reached across the bed out of habit, but his hand touched only cold sheets. The empty space beside him felt heavier than he expected. Outside, early light slowly filled the room, but inside the house, everything felt paused. As if life itself was waiting for an answer that had not arrived yet. He sat up, breathing deeply, reminding himself that he had agreed to give her space. Still, knowing the reason did not make the loneliness easier. He walked downstairs and found Margaret already in the kitchen, preparing coffee. The smell felt comforting, familiar, grounding. She greeted him with a gentle smile that carried no pity, only quiet understanding. Daniel appreciated that most. She did not treat him like someone broken. She treated him like someone going through a difficult chapter that would eventually pass. "You should eat something," she said softly, placing toast on a plate. He nodded, though appetite felt distant. They sat together without pressure to talk. The silence between them felt supportive instead of awkward. And for the first time since Emily left, Daniel felt his thoughts slow down. The first few days were the hardest. Every routine reminded him of Emily. He poured 2 cups of coffee by mistake. He checked his phone expecting messages that did not come. Even small things, like seeing her favorite blanket on the couch, brought waves of emotion he struggled to control. At night, sleep arrived late and left early. Emily called occasionally. Her voice sounded unsure, careful. She said she was staying with a friend and trying to understand her feelings. Daniel listened calmly. He avoided anger because anger would only close doors that might still be open. After each call, however, the house felt quieter than before. Margaret stayed present without interfering. She encouraged Daniel to keep living instead of waiting endlessly. One morning, she suggested a walk through a nearby park. At first, he resisted, but fresh air helped more than he expected. They talked about ordinary things, weather, travel, books, and gradually Daniel felt tension leaving his shoulders. During one walk, Margaret shared something personal. She spoke about her late husband and how their marriage had once faced a serious emotional distance after years of routine. "People don't fall apart suddenly," she explained. "They drift slowly when communication stops." Her words helped Daniel see his situation differently. Instead of viewing himself as someone abandoned, he began understanding that both he and Emily had allowed distance to grow without noticing. Inspired by her encouragement, Daniel started rebuilding small habits. He returned to morning runs, something he had stopped months earlier. The first run felt exhausting, but afterward he noticed clarity returning to his thoughts. Physical movement helped release emotions he had been holding inside. He also reconnected with friends he had unintentionally ignored during stressful months. Coffee conversations and casual laughter reminded him that his identity existed beyond marriage alone. Slowly, confidence returned, not confidence that everything would be fixed, but confidence that he could survive whatever outcome awaited him. Margaret noticed the change and encouraged it gently. "Strength doesn't mean pretending you're fine," she told him one evening. "It means continuing forward while healing." Weeks passed and Daniel stopped counting days since Emily left. Instead of waiting by the phone, he focused on building calm in his life. He cleaned the house, reorganized his workspace, and even repainted part of the living room wall they had once planned to fix together. The activity gave him a sense of progress. One afternoon, Emily called unexpectedly and asked if they could meet. His heart raced, but his voice remained steady as he agreed. They chose a quiet cafe downtown, a neutral place filled with soft music and low conversations. When Emily arrived, Daniel immediately noticed she looked tired, as if she had spent many sleepless nights thinking. She sat across from him, nervous but sincere. For a moment, neither spoke. Finally, Emily took a deep breath. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," she said. "About us. About myself." Daniel listened carefully, resisting the urge to interrupt. She explained that during months of stress, she had felt lost and disconnected, not only from Daniel, but from herself. Someone at work had offered attention and understanding during that vulnerable time. And she confused comfort with something deeper. But distance from home made her realize that what she truly missed was stability, trust, and shared history, things that could not be replaced quickly. "I thought I needed change," she admitted quietly. "But I realized I needed honesty." Tears filled her eyes. She apologized for hurting him and for choosing silence instead of communication when problems first appeared. Daniel felt emotion rise, yet he remained calm. The weeks of reflection had changed him too. "I wasn't perfect either," he said gently. We stopped talking about real things. We let routine replace connection. Their conversation lasted hours. They discussed fears, expectations, and the small misunderstandings that had slowly grown into emotional distance. For the first time in a long while, they truly listened to each other without defensiveness. There were no dramatic promises, only mutual willingness to try again carefully. Emily asked if she could come home, not to return immediately to normal, but to rebuild slowly. Daniel agreed, understanding that healing required patience from both of them. When they arrived at the house together a few days later, Margaret welcomed them warmly without asking questions. Her calm reaction removed pressure from the moment. Emily hugged her mother tightly, grateful for her quiet support during the separation. That evening felt different from the past. Conversation moved slowly, but honestly, they spoke about daily plans, counseling options, and how to create better communication habits. Nothing felt forced. The atmosphere held cautious hope instead of tension. Over the following weeks, Daniel and Emily attended counseling sessions together. They learned simple practices, listening fully before responding, expressing feelings early instead of hiding them, and protecting time for each other despite busy schedules. Progress came in small steps. Some days felt awkward, but effort remained consistent. Gradually, warmth returned to their relationship. They cooked dinner together again, laughing when recipes went wrong. Weekend walks became regular. Phones stayed aside during conversations. Trust rebuilt piece by piece, stronger because it was now intentional. Daniel noticed Emily making real effort, and she noticed his renewed emotional openness. Instead of assuming love would maintain itself automatically, they actively cared for it. One evening, they sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the sky orange and gold. Emily rested her head gently on Daniel's shoulder, something she had not done in months. The gesture felt simple, yet meaningful. "I almost lost us," she whispered. Daniel squeezed her hand. "We both learned how important us really is." Inside the house, Margaret quietly packed her suitcase. Her visit, originally planned for days, had lasted weeks. Before leaving the next morning, she hugged Daniel warmly. "You stayed kind when life gave you reasons not to," she told him. "That matters more than you realize." He thanked her sincerely. "You helped me stay strong." She smiled softly. "You already had strength. You just needed someone to remind you." As her car disappeared down the street, Daniel felt deep gratitude. Margaret had never taken sides or forced outcomes. She simply supported compassion, allowing both him and Emily the space to grow. Life slowly returned to rhythm. The marriage did not return to its old version. Instead, it became wiser. They communicated more openly, valued small moments, and understood that love required attention, not assumption. Months later, Daniel realized the hardest chapter of his life had also been the most transformative. Losing certainty had taught him patience. Pain had taught empathy. And unexpected kindness had shown him that support sometimes comes from the most surprising places. He no longer feared silence in the house because it no longer represented distance. It represented peace. And as he watched Emily laugh freely again, this time beside him, Daniel understood that love was not defined by never struggling. It was defined by choosing each other again after learning how fragile connection can be. In the end, he had not only saved his marriage, he had discovered a stronger version of himself, someone capable of loving with patience, listening with care, and standing firm even when life felt uncertain. Because sometimes, when everything seems close to breaking, healing begins quietly, with understanding, forgiveness, and the courage to start again.